Duhan Park's hands shook as he stared at the research lab's security screen. The Horizon, humanity's most advanced research vessel, was breaking apart around him. Red warning lights flashed across the ceiling, and the ship's AI kept repeating the same message. Unknown hostile vessels detected. All personnel proceed to emergency stations. He pressed his face against the reinforced window of his sealed lab. Through it, he could see other scientists running toward the escape pods. Some wore their protective suits, while others were still in their regular clothes. The attack had come without warning. Warning: hull breach detected in sections 4 through 7, the ship's computer announced. Its calm voice seemed wrong among the chaos. Duhan grabbed his experimental survival suit from its stand. The suit was his life's work, a piece of technology that could help humans survive in almost any environment. He had been testing it when the attack began. Now it might be his only chance to stay alive. "Jaya, activate emergency protocols," he said as he put on the suit. The AI built into the suit came to life instantly. "Emergency protocols activated, Duhan," Jaya responded in her clear voice. The ship's main computer reports multiple direct hits. Survival chance aboard the Horizon is now less than 10%. Another explosion rocked the ship. Through the window, Duhan saw something that made his blood run cold. A beam of strange purple energy cut through the ship's hull, like it was made of paper. He had never seen weapons like this before. "Jaya, connect to the ship's communication system. I need to know what's happening." The eye was quiet for a moment. "Connecting. Alert. Main communication hub is destroyed. Switching to emergency channels." Suddenly, Captain Ta-Wun's voice filled Duhan's helmet. It was broken by static. "This is final transmission. Unknown enemy. Far beyond our everyone. Escape pods. May God help us all." The transmission ended with another explosion. Duhan's heart sank as he thought of the 200 crew members aboard. Brilliant scientists and researchers from Earth. Among them was Han, his fiancée, who worked in the medical bay 6 decks above. "Jaya, can you locate Han's vital signs?" he asked, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Duhan. Medical bay sensors are offline. No vital signs can be detected from that section." The lab's door suddenly sparked and began to glow red. Something was cutting through it. Duhan's scientific mind recognized that the unknown attackers were now trying to enter his lab. "Duhan, the lab's air seal will be compromised in approximately 40 seconds, Jaya warned. "We must evacuate immediately." He looked around frantically. The lab was on the outer edge of the ship, and there was one thing that might save him: the experimental emergency pod attached to his lab. It was meant for removing dangerous specimens from the ship, but now it would have to serve a different purpose. "Jaya, prepare the emergency pod for launch," he ordered, moving quickly to the small craft. "Transfer all research data to your memory banks. Transfer in progress. Warning: unknown entities will breach the lab in 20 seconds. Duhan sealed himself inside the pod just as the lab door began to melt away. Through the pod's window, he caught a glimpse of something moving in the corridor, something that seemed to shift and change shape in ways that hurt his eyes to look at. "Launch now," he shouted. The pod shot away from the dying ship. Through its small window, Duhan watched in horror as more purple beams sliced through the horizon. The ship's beautiful white hull, which had carried humanity's hopes for peaceful space exploration, was now turning into burning pieces of metal. "Jaya, are there any other escape pods?" he asked, hoping he wasn't the only survivor. "Scanning. No functional escape pod signals detected. Duhan, I'm sorry, but sensor data suggests we are the only successful launch from the Horizon." Duhan closed his eyes, fighting back tears. 200 of Earth's brightest minds, including his Han, were gone. As his pod drifted through space, he realized he might be the last free human in this part of the galaxy. The weight of that thought pressed down on him like a physical force. Jaya, set the emergency beacon and scan for the nearest habitable planet. We need to survive. We need to warn Earth. As the pod's engines fired up, Duhan took one last look at the scattered remains of the horizon. He made a silent promise to his lost crewmates. Their deaths would not be meaningless. Somehow, he would find a way to understand what had happened here and protect Earth from these unknown attackers. The pod sped away from the destruction, carrying its precious cargo, perhaps humanity's final survivor in this sector of space, armed with nothing but his knowledge, his experimental suit, and an AI companion named Jaya. The escape pod shuddered violently as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Duhan gripped his seat, watching as the metal walls around him turned red from the heat. Warning lights flashed across the pod's small control panel. Current survival probability is 63%. The AI responded. The pod was not designed for planetary entry. Heat shields are failing. Duhan looked through the small window. The planet below was mostly purple, with patches of dark blue that might be oceans. Strange, silvery clouds swirled in its atmosphere. He had studied hundreds of alien worlds as a xenobiologist, but this one matched nothing in Earth's databases. Landing trajectory calculated, Jaya announced. Warning: the pod's main engine is overheating. We must reduce speed immediately. The pod jerked to the left, throwing Duhan against his harness. He thanked his luck for wearing the experimental survival suit. Without it, the wild movements would have already knocked him unconscious. Jaya, run a quick scan of the atmosphere, he ordered, falling back on his scientific training to stay calm. Atmosphere contains 15% oxygen, 70% nitrogen, 10% argon, 5% unknown gases. Temperature at landing zone, 40 degrees Celsius. Warning: air is barely breathable for humans. Your suit's life support system will be essential. Another violent shake rattled the pod. Through the window, Duhan could now see the ground rushing up to meet them. The surface looked like a forest, but instead of trees, there were tall, crystal-like structures that reflected the light of this world's sun. Duhan closed his eyes and thought of Earth, of his family, of Han. The pod's temperature was still rising. Sweat ran down his face inside his helmet, despite the suit's cooling system working at full power. Impact in 10 seconds. 9. 8. The pod smashed through several of the crystal structures, each hit slowing them down. Duhan's teeth rattled with each impact. His survival suit's shock absorbers worked overtime to protect him from the worst of it. With a final, teeth-jarring crash, the pod slammed into the ground. Duhan's head snapped forward, then back. Everything went dark for a moment. When he opened his eyes, the pod was lying on its side. Smoke filled the small space, but his suit's filters kept him breathing clean air. "Jaya, are you still functioning?" he called out. "All systems operational," the AI responded. "Running damage assessment. Duhan, you have minor bruising but no serious injuries. The pod, however, is severely damaged. Emergency power only. Communication systems are offline." Duhan unbuckled his harness and carefully stood up in the tilted pod. "What about the outside environment? Is it safe to exit?" "The air is toxic, but not immediately lethal. Your suit can filter it indefinitely. Ground temperature is high but within tolerable ranges. Warning: unknown radiation types detected. The suit's shields are adapting." Using his remaining strength, Duhan pushed open the pod's emergency hatch. Hot, purple-tinted air rushed in. He pulled himself out and stood on the alien soil for the first time. The landscape took his breath away. Crystal spires rose hundreds of meters into the sky, their surfaces reflecting and refracting the light of this world's orange sun. The ground was covered in smaller crystals that crunched under his boots. In the distance, what looked like lightning jumped between the larger formations. "Amazing," he whispered. "Jaya, are you recording all this?" "Yes, Duhan. All suit cameras are active. I'm also detecting unusual energy patterns in the crystal formations. They appear to be naturally occurring semiconductors. Duhan took a few careful steps away from the pod. His xenobiologist's mind was already racing with questions and theories. How did these crystals form? Could they be used to power his equipment? Were there any life forms in this strange environment? A sudden movement caught his eye. One of the smaller crystals near his feet had shifted slightly. Then another moved, and another. "Jaya," he said quietly, "I don't think we're alone here." "Correct," the AI responded. "I'm detecting multiple moving objects. They appear to be using the crystal formations for camouflage. Based on their movement patterns, they show signs of intelligence." Duhan slowly reached down and picked up a piece of broken crystal from the pod's crash landing. He would need tools to survive here, and this might be a start. Whatever this world was, whatever lived here, he would have to adapt. "First priority is shelter," he said, falling back on his survival training. "Then we need to find a way to boost the pod's communication systems. Earth needs to know what happened to the horizon." As he spoke, more crystals began to move around him. The final survivor of the horizon was about to meet his first aliens, and everything he knew about xenobiology was about to be put to the test. Duhan stood very still as more crystals moved around him. His years of xenobiology training told him to stay calm and observe. These beings, whatever they were, hadn't attacked yet. That was a good sign. "Jaya, what are you seeing?" he whispered inside his helmet. "The crystal formations appear to be living organisms," the AI replied. "They are producing complex light patterns within their structures. It may be a form of communication." As if responding to Jaya's words, one of the larger crystals near Duhan began to pulse with soft blue light. The pattern moved like waves through its clear surface. Other crystals around it started to glow in response, creating a beautiful dance of light. Duhan's scientific mind raced with excitement. "Jaya, can you record and analyze these light patterns?" "Already doing so. The patterns show clear mathematical sequences. This is definitely a form of language." Slowly, carefully, Duhan reached into his suit's utility belt and pulled out a small light. It was meant for emergency repairs, but now it might serve a different purpose. He pointed it at the ground and made it blink in a simple pattern. 1, 2, 3 flashes. The crystals around him went still. Then, to his amazement, they responded with the same pattern. 1, 2, 3 pulses of light. "They're intelligent," Duhan said softly. "They understand basic patterns." His heart beat faster. This was what he had trained for all his life. First contact with an alien species. The largest crystal, about as tall as Duhan, moved closer to him. Its movement was smooth, like it was sliding across the ground. Up close, he could see that its structure was more complex than he first thought. There were smaller crystals inside it, all moving and shifting like parts of a living machine. "Jaya, let's try something more complex," Duhan said. He used his light to flash the first few numbers of the Fibonacci sequence. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5 flashes. The crystal being not only repeated his sequence but continued it. 8, 13, 21 pulses of light. Duhan smiled inside his helmet. They didn't just understand patterns, they could work with complex mathematics. "Duhan," Jaya interrupted, "the beings are emanating more complex light patterns now. I'm detecting mathematical formulas, geometric sequences, and what appears to be astronomical data." The crystal beings had formed a circle around Duhan. Their light patterns were becoming more intricate, creating three-dimensional shapes in the air between them. He recognized some of them. They were star maps. "They're trying to ask where I'm from," Duhan realized. He pointed his light upward and tried to recreate a simple map of Earth's solar system. The crystal being's response was immediate and excited. Their lights pulsed faster, and more of them emerged from the surrounding crystal forest. They began to create a larger, more complex star map in the air. "Jaya, are you seeing this? They're showing us a map of this entire sector of space." "Correct," Jaya confirmed. And Duhan. They're marking locations, including the spot where the horizon was destroyed. Duhan's excitement turned to focused attention. The crystal beings, the luminary, as he decided to call them, were trying to tell him something important about the attack. One of the luminary moved right up to Duhan and changed its light pattern. Instead of mathematics or maps, it created an image that made Duhan's blood run cold. The light showed a shape that shifted and changed, just like the beings he had glimpsed attacking the horizon. They know our attackers, Duhan said grimly. Jaya, we need to find a way to communicate more clearly with them. Earth's survival might depend on what they know. The luminaries suddenly all turned their lights to a deep purple color. Several of them began moving in the same direction, then stopped, as if waiting for Duhan. I believe they want us to follow them, Jaya said. Duhan looked back at his damaged escape pod, then at the waiting luminary. He had come to this planet by accident, but maybe it wasn't an accident at all. Maybe he had crashed exactly where he needed to be. Well, he said, checking his suit's power levels, let's not keep our new friends waiting. We've got a lot to learn from each other. As Duhan followed the luminary deeper into their crystal forest, he felt a mix of hope and worry. He had found intelligent life, yes, but he had also found beings who knew about the horizon's attackers. Now he just had to figure out how to understand what they were trying to tell him, before it was too late for Earth. The luminary led Duhan through their crystal forest for what felt like hours. His suit's cooling system worked hard against the planet's heat, but he barely noticed the discomfort. He was too amazed by what he saw around him. Jaya, are you seeing how they communicate with each other? He asked, watching the crystal beings exchange complex patterns of light. Yes, I've recorded over 1,000 unique light sequences. They seem to have a complete language based on mathematical patterns. The group stopped at what looked like a solid wall of crystal. The largest luminary moved forward and pulsed with a specific pattern of light. To Duhan's surprise, a section of the wall simply vanished. Jaya, what just happened? The crystal structure changed its molecular arrangement in response to the light pattern. Fascinating. It's like a lock-and-key system, but using light instead of metal. Duhan followed the luminary through the opening. His mouth fell open inside his helmet. They had entered a massive underground chamber that was clearly not natural. The walls were made of a smooth, dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered every surface. This wasn't built by the luminary, Duhan said, looking at the angular, artificial construction. This is something else entirely. Correct, Jaya responded. The architecture suggests an advanced civilization with technology far beyond Earth's current level. Dating analysis suggests this structure is at least 50,000 years old. The luminaries spread out around the chamber, their lights reflecting off the metallic walls. One of them touched a panel, and suddenly the whole room came alive with holographic displays. Amazing, Duhan whispered. They know how to operate this technology. They've been studying it. The largest display showed a map of the galaxy. Different sections were marked with symbols Duhan didn't recognize. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a map. It was a record of something that had happened long ago. Jaya, can you translate any of these symbols? Working on it. The symbols appear to be a form of mathematical language, similar to how the luminary communicate, but more complex. Give me time to process the patterns. One of the luminary approached Duhan. It created a series of light patterns that showed ships that looked exactly like the ones that had attacked the horizon. They're trying to tell us something about the attackers, Duhan said. Jaya, focus on any symbols that might be connected to those ship designs. Processing. Duhan, I'm detecting a pattern. These symbols keep appearing together. Based on their arrangement and frequency, they might mean hunter or seeker. More holograms appeared, showing scenes of destruction. Entire solar systems marked as empty, ships that looked like the attackers' vessels moving through space, leaving nothing alive behind them. This is a warning, Duhan realized. The luminary brought us here to show us this. The beings that attacked us, they've done this before. A new hologram appeared, showing creatures that made Duhan step back. They were constantly changing shape, their bodies flowing like liquid metal. They looked exactly like what he had glimpsed through the lab door on the horizon. The shifters, Jaya translated from a nearby symbol group. That appears to be what the ancient civilization called them. Duhan watched as the holograms told a story. The shifters had appeared thousands of years ago, destroying everything in their path. The civilization that built this archive had fought them, but eventually lost. But before they disappeared, they had left behind these archives, hidden on planets throughout the galaxy. That's why the Luminary were so interested in us, Duhan said. They've been guarding this knowledge, waiting for someone who could use it. One of the Luminary touched another panel. A new hologram appeared, showing what looked like weapon designs and defense systems. Technology that might be able to stop the shifters. Jaya, download everything you can, Duhan ordered. If the shifters are heading toward Earth, we need to understand what we're facing, and we need to figure out how to use this ancient technology. As Jaya began copying the archive's data, Duhan looked at the Luminary with new respect. They weren't just intelligent beings, they were guardians, protecting knowledge that might save humanity from the fate that had befallen the ancient civilization. Thank you, he said to them, using his light to flash a pattern of gratitude. We'll make good use of what you've shown us. The Luminary's response was to light up the entire chamber with patterns of blue and gold. Even without translation, Duhan understood. They were ready to help him protect Earth from the coming storm. 2 weeks had passed since Duhan discovered the ancient archive. He sat in his newly built shelter, looking at the strange mix of technology around him. The walls were made of living crystal, grown with help from the Luminary. Inside, salvaged parts from his escape pod combined with ancient technology to create something entirely new. Jaya, how are the air filters working? He asked, checking the readings on his suit's display. The crystal-based filtration system is operating at 95% efficiency, the eye replied. The air inside the shelter is now safe to breathe without your helmet. Duhan smiled and carefully removed his helmet for the first time since the crash. The air tasted strange, a bit like mint and metal, but it was breathable. This was his first real success. The Luminary's crystal technology is amazing, he said, touching one of the walls. I never would have thought to use living crystals as air filters. 3 Luminary floated into his shelter through the light-activated doorway. They had been helping him understand their technology, learning from him in return. Their light patterns were much clearer to him now. They're saying the water purification system is ready, Jaya translated. They've adapted one of their crystal pools to remove the toxic elements that make it dangerous for humans. Duhan followed the Luminary to a small pool near his shelter. The water glowed with a soft blue light, filtered through layers of living crystal. He took out a testing strip from his suit's supplies and dipped it in. Clean, he said, amazed. Cleaner than Earth's tap water. He took a careful sip, and his eyes widened. It's perfect. The Luminary pulsed with patterns that Jaya had learned meant happiness or pride. They had worked hard to help their human visitors survive on their world. Show them the new power system, Duhan said, leading them back inside. On a table made from escape pod parts sat a device that combined Earth technology with crystal energy collectors. The power system is now operating at 200% of the original escape pod's capacity, Jaya reported. The Luminary's crystal energy collection methods are far more efficient than our solar panels. Duhan pointed to a screen showing Earth's solar system. If we can make this work on a larger scale, it could help Earth prepare for the shifters. Clean, unlimited power for our defense systems. The largest Luminary moved forward and created a complex pattern of light. They want to show you something, Jaya translated. Something about growing crystals in space. Duhan's eyes lit up. The Luminary had mentioned this before. Their crystals could grow and survive in space. if they could combine that with human engineering. Jaya, bring up the ancient archives files on space-based defense systems, he said, excitement in his voice. Holograms filled the room, showing old designs from the ancient civilization. Duhan studied them while the luminary added their own light patterns, suggesting changes and improvements. Look at this, he said, pointing to one design. If we replace these metal components with living crystal and add the energy collection system we just built. The luminary's lights pulsed rapidly. They understood. Together, they began working on a new design, combining 3 different technologies: human engineering, luminary crystal science, and the ancient civilization's advanced weapons. Hours passed as they worked. Duhan forgot about his fatigue. This was what he loved most about science, the moment when different ideas came together to create something new. Jia, save all these designs, he said finally, looking at their work, and run a simulation. The AI projected a hologram showing their new defense system in action. In the simulation, crystal-based satellites absorbed energy from nearby stars, powering weapons that could actually hurt the shifters' liquid metal ships. It works, Duhan said softly. At least in theory, it works. The luminary created patterns of light that showed celebration and determination. They had given Duhan the knowledge of the past, but he had helped them find new ways to use it. Now we just need to find a way to build it, he said, looking at their designs. And more importantly, we need to warn Earth before the shifters arrive. One of the luminari pointed to another part of the shelter, where they had been working on improving the escape pod's communication system. The message was clear, one problem at a time. First survive, then build, then communicate. Duhan nodded, feeling grateful for these strange but brilliant allies. Together, they were creating solutions that neither species could have developed alone. Human creativity and determination, combined with luminary crystal science and ancient knowledge, might just be enough to save Earth. Duhan sat at his communication station, carefully adjusting the crystal-enhanced antenna he and the luminary had built. After a month on this alien world, the station looked nothing like Earth technology. Crystal spires grew from the salvaged escape pod parts, each one helping to boost his signal into space. Jaya, start another scan of all frequencies, he said, watching the readings on his display. Let's try the new crystal alignment. Scanning, the AI responded. The luminary's modifications have increased our range by 300%. We can now reach twice the distance to Earth. Duhan rubbed his tired eyes. He had been working on the communication system for days, trying to send a warning to Earth. The luminary helped however they could, but space was vast, and their signal was small. Suddenly, a sound filled the room, a strange, pulsing tone that made the crystals vibrate. Jaya, what is that? Duhan asked, his heart beating faster. Detecting an encrypted transmission. It's... Jaya paused. Duhan, it's using a modified version of the Horizon's communication codes. His hand shook as he adjusted the controls. Can you decode it? Working on it. The encryption is similar to Earth military standards, but changed somehow. Like it was copied and altered. The sound changed, becoming clearer. Then, to Duhan's horror, he heard voices he recognized. Recordings from the Horizon's final moments, played back in a strange mechanical way. They're using our own signals, he whispered. The shifters. They're using the Horizon's communication system to learn about Earth. The luminary in the room began pulsing with urgent light patterns. Jaya translated. They say this is how the shifters work. They take the technology of the species they destroy and use it against the next target. More signals began coming through. Duhan listened as the shifters practiced Earth languages, studied Earth military communications, and learned about Earth's defenses. They weren't just attacking. They were preparing for a full invasion. Jaya, can you trace these signals? Where are they coming from? Multiple sources detected, based on signal strength and direction. The AI displayed a star map. They're coming from a fleet of ships, And Duhan. They're moving toward Earth. Duhan felt cold despite the planet's heat. The shifters weren't just random attackers, they were systematic hunters. The Horizon's destruction hadn't been an accident. It had been a way to gather intelligence about Earth. One of the luminary touched the communication panel, adding their crystal technology to the scanning system. New information appeared on the display. "They're showing us more ships," Jaya reported. "Many more than we thought. The shifters are gathering a massive fleet, based on their current speed." The AI hesitated. "They will reach Earth in approximately 6 months." Duhan stood up and began pacing. 6 months. Earth had no idea what was coming. Their weapons wouldn't work against the shifters' liquid metal ships. Their communications would be compromised. Their technology would be turned against them. "We have to warn them," he said. "And not just warn them. We have to give them a way to fight back." He looked at their workshop where the crystal-based defense systems were being developed. They had made progress, but everything was still experimental, untested. "Jaya, prepare a data package. Everything we've learned about the shifters, all our defense designs, the crystal technology. Everything." "Data package ready," Jaya replied. "But Duhan, even with the enhanced communication system, we can't reach Earth from here." The luminary began creating complex light patterns. Jaya translated. "They say there might be a way." The ancient civilization built a network of communication relays. Some might still work. Duhan looked at the star map again. The shifters' fleet was huge, but they were following a specific path, probably to avoid certain areas of space. "Show me where these relays might be," he said to the luminary. They added points of light to the map. Most were in the areas the shifters were avoiding. The ancient civilization had hidden their technology well. "If we can reach just one of those relays," Duhan said, "we might be able to send a warning to Earth, but we'll need a stronger signal." The luminary's lights pulsed with determination. They began showing him designs, ways to increase the power of their communication system. It would be dangerous, maybe impossible, but they had to try. Duhan looked at the recording of the shifter's signals again. Somewhere in those transmissions, he could hear the echoes of the Horizon's last moments. He thought of Han, of all the lives lost. "Let's get to work," he said. "Earth needs to know what's coming. And this time, humanity will be ready for them." Duhan stared at the recordings of shifter attacks that the luminary had shown him. He had watched them dozens of times, looking for any weakness in their seemingly perfect strategy. The ancient civilization had fought bravely, but their logical, predictable tactics had failed against the shifters' liquid metal ships. "Jaya, play the battle footage again," he said, rubbing his tired eyes. "Focus on the moments right before each attack." "Playing footage," the AI responded. The holographic display showed massive ships dissolving and reforming as they fought. "What are you looking for, Duhan?" "A pattern. The ancient civilization must have found something. Some way to fight them." The luminary gathered around, their crystals glowing softly as they watched with him. They had shown him everything they knew about the shifters, but it never seemed enough. Then Duhan noticed something. In one battle, a small ship had survived longer than the others. It hadn't followed the standard attack patterns. Its movements were random. "Jaya, analyze that small ship's flight path," he said, pointing to the hologram. "Compare it to the others." Analysis complete. The ship's movements showed no logical pattern. It appears the pilot was acting on instinct rather than tactical programming. Duhan sat up straighter. "That's it. The ancient civilization relied too much on logic, on perfect patterns. That's why they lost. The shifters could predict everything they would do." He turned to the luminary, excitement in his voice. "Show me the shifters' recent communications again. The ones they copied from the Horizon." The recordings played. The shifters had perfectly copied Earth's languages and codes, but when they tried to understand human expressions, human emotions, they failed. "They don't understand us," Duhan said softly. "They can copy our words, our technology, but they can't copy what makes us human. Our emotions, our instincts, our ability to make impossible choices. The luminaries' lights pulsed with interest. They created patterns showing battles, then added irregular movements to them. Yes, Duhan stood up and walked to the battle display. The shifters are perfect at responding to patterns, to logical attacks. But humans aren't logical. We feel, we improvise, we do things that make no sense. He thought about the Horizon's final moments. Captain Tawan had tried to follow standard procedures, to fight back with tactical precision. That's why they had lost. Jaya, bring up our defense designs, he said. We've been thinking about this all wrong. We don't need perfect weapons. We need weapons that are unpredictable. Weapons that can change based on human emotions and instincts. The luminary began adjusting their crystal technology. They understood now. Their light patterns showed excitement as they modified the designs. Look at this, Duhan said, pointing to the crystal-based weapons they had created. Instead of programming them with attack patterns, we let human pilots control them directly. The crystals can amplify human thoughts, human reactions. The shifters wouldn't be able to predict such actions, Jaya agreed. Their analytical systems are based on finding patterns. Human emotional responses follow no clear pattern. Duhan felt a surge of hope. He thought of Hayan, of how human love and loss had driven him to survive on this alien world. The shifters could never understand such feelings. We need to add this to the warning message, he said. Earth needs to know that our greatest weapon against the shifters isn't technology. It's our humanity. The luminary created light patterns showing agreement. They had seen how Duhan's human nature had helped him adapt to their world, how his emotional decisions had led to breakthroughs their logical minds hadn't considered. Jaya, modify the defense plans. Show how the crystal technology can connect directly to human neural patterns. Earth's pilots will need to learn to fight with instinct, not just training. As they worked, Duhan realized something else. The shifters had destroyed the ancient civilization because they could predict everything about them. But humans were anything but predictable. He looked at the star map showing the shifters' fleet moving toward Earth. They thought they understood humanity because they had copied their words and codes, but they didn't understand human courage, human creativity, or human determination. Earth has a chance, he said to the luminary. We just have to show them how to use what makes us human against the machines that want to destroy us. The crystals pulsed with bright, hopeful patterns. They had protected the ancient knowledge for thousands of years, waiting for someone who could use it in a new way. In Duhan, they had found not just an ally, but a different kind of intelligence, one that might finally be able to defeat the shifters. Duhan worked quickly, connecting the last crystal spire to their makeshift defense system. Around him, the luminary's forest had transformed. Hundreds of crystal towers now pointed toward the sky, each one linked to the ancient archives technology. Jaya, how long until they arrive? He asked, checking the power readings on his suit's display. Shifter ships will enter this system in approximately 20 minutes, the AI responded. 3 vessels detected. They're following your transmission attempts. Duhan had known this might happen. Their efforts to contact Earth through the ancient relay system had drawn attention. Now they had to survive long enough to send their message. Are the crystal towers charged? He asked, looking at the beautiful, dangerous forest they had created. All towers at 85% power and rising, Jaya reported. The luminary's energy collection system is working better than expected. The crystal beings themselves had taken positions throughout the forest. Their bodies pulsed with light, feeding power into the defense grid. They had spent days teaching Duhan how to merge their crystal technology with the ancient weapons. Remember, he said to himself, no patterns, no logic, fight with instinct. He placed his hands on the main control crystal. The luminary had modified it to respond to his thoughts and emotions. It felt warm, almost alive, under his fingers. Shifter ships entering visual range, Jaya announced. Duhan looked up. 3 liquid metal ships appeared in the purple sky, their surfaces rippling like mercury. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. "They're scanning us," Jaya warned. "They've detected the ancient technology." The ships started to change shape, forming weapons that had destroyed the horizon. Duhan felt anger rise in his chest as he remembered that day. But this time, things would be different. "Now," he shouted. The crystal forest came alive. But instead of firing in organized patterns, each tower responded to Duhan's emotions. Beams of light shot into the sky in chaotic, unpredictable ways. Some curved around the shifter ships, others split into multiple attacks. The shifters tried to adapt, their ships flowing into new shapes. But every time they formed a defense, Duhan's emotional control of the crystals created a new, impossible attack pattern. "It's working," he said, watching one of the ships take damage. "They can't predict what we'll do next." The luminary pulsed their lights in harmony with his attacks, adding their own randomness to the defense. Crystal energy swirled around the shifter ships like a storm of light and power. "Warning," Jaya announced. 2 more shifter ships approaching from orbit. Duhan felt sweat run down his face inside his helmet. "How's the transmission to the relay station?" 60% complete. We need to hold them off for 7 more minutes." One of the damaged shifter ships dissolved into a new shape, a massive cannon that Duhan had seen in the archives records. It had destroyed entire cities during the ancient war. But Duhan didn't react with tactical logic. Instead, he thought about Hayan's smile, about Earth's oceans, about all the random, beautiful things that made humans human. The crystal towers responded to these thoughts, creating defense patterns that no computer could predict. The shifter's weapon fired, and missed completely. The liquid metal ship seemed to hesitate, its surface rippling with what looked like confusion. "They don't understand," Duhan said, launching another emotional-driven attack. "They can't copy what they can't understand." "Transmission at 80%, Jaya reported. "But Duhan, the crystal towers are starting to crack from the power strain." He looked around. The beautiful crystal forest was glowing too brightly. Some towers were breaking apart as they channeled more energy than they were meant to handle. The luminaries' lights pulsed with determination. They were willing to sacrifice their home to get the message through. "Just a little longer," Duhan said, pushing more of his feelings into the defense grid. He thought of everyone he had lost, of Earth's future, of the strange friendship he had found with these crystal beings. The shifter ships pressed their attack, but they couldn't break through the chaotic defense. Every time they adapted to one pattern, Duhan's human emotions created a new one. "Transmission complete," Jaya announced. "The warning message has reached the relay station. It's being sent to Earth." Duhan looked up at the shifter ships, which were now retreating from the crystal storm they couldn't comprehend. He had done it. Earth would know what was coming. They would know how to fight back. But his victory was just the beginning. Now he had to survive what came next. 3 months had passed since the battle with the shifter ships. Duhan stood in the new crystal city he and the luminary had built together, watching as an Earth ship descended from the purple sky. The vessel was unlike anything he had seen before. Its hull was covered in glowing crystals, already adapted with the technology he had sent in his warning message. "Jaya, are you getting readings from the ship?" he asked, his heart beating faster at the sight of human technology again. "Yes, the ship is using a combination of Earth engines and crystal energy systems. They receive our message and have been busy these past months." The luminary gathered around Duhan, their lights creating patterns of welcome. The crystal forest had regrown after the battle, more beautiful than before. Now it was both a home and a defense system, ready to protect against any future attacks. "They're sending a transmission," Jaya announced. A familiar voice filled Duhan's helmet. "Research vessel Star Bridge to Duhan Park. Permission to land." Duhan smiled. Earth had not only received his message, they had understood it and acted on it. "Permission granted," he replied. "Welcome to Crystal Haven." The ship landed in a clearing the luminary had prepared, Its crystal-enhanced hull sparkled in the orange sunlight. The landing ramp lowered, and Duhan saw something that made him catch his breath. Humans wearing suits similar to his, already modified with crystal technology. 5 people walked down the ramp. Their leader removed her helmet, revealing a face that showed both amazement and respect. "Dr. Park," she said, "I'm Captain Yuri Song of the Star Bridge. Earth Command sent us as soon as we decoded your full message. What you've discovered here, it's incredible." Duhan nodded to the luminary, who created a beautiful light show of welcome. The newcomers watched in awe as the crystal beings demonstrated their communication. "The luminary taught me everything," Duhan said. "They showed me the ancient archive, helped me understand the shifter's weakness. How is Earth preparing?" Captain Yuri smiled. "Your warning changed everything. The crystal technology you sent us, it was exactly what we needed. Every ship in Earth's fleet is being upgraded. We're building defense systems that combine human emotion with crystal power, just like you designed." She gestured to her crew's suits. "Even these are based on your original suit designs. Crystal-enhanced systems that respond to human thoughts and feelings. The shifters won't know what hit them." The luminary moved closer, curious about the new humans. Their lights created patterns that Jaya translated. "They say more humans are welcome here. This place can be a bridge between our worlds." "That's why we came," Captain Yuri said. "Earth Command wants to establish a permanent base here, a place where humans and luminary can work together, develop new technologies. Will you help us?" Duhan looked around at the crystal city he had helped build. He thought of his journey, from the last survivor of the horizon to a bridge between 2 species. He thought of Hayan, and how she would have loved to see this moment. "Of course I'll help," he said. "But first, tell me about the shifters. Have they reached Earth yet?" "They tried," Yuri said with a proud smile. "A month ago, their first scout ships arrived. They weren't expecting to find crystal defense satellites in orbit, or ships that moved in ways their computers couldn't predict. They retreated after losing half their scouts." Duhan felt relief wash over him. Earth had taken his warning seriously. They had learned from his discoveries, improved on them. Humanity would be ready when the main shifter fleet arrived. "There's something else you should know," Yuri added. "We found other survivors from the horizon. 3 escape pods made it to different planets. When they saw your message being relayed through space, they managed to signal for help." Duhan's legs felt weak. "Other survivors? Who?" "One of them is a medical officer, Li Han." Duhan's world stopped for a moment. The luminary around him pulsed with bright, joyful lights, sensing his emotions. Hayan was alive. She had survived, just like him. "She's on her way here now," Yuri said softly, "on the next ship." Duhan looked up at the purple sky, then at the humans and luminary around him. He had started this journey as the final survivor, carrying the weight of humanity's future alone. Now he stood as a bridge between species. His warning had saved Earth, and his love was returning to him. The luminary created patterns of light that showed sunrise, their symbol for new beginnings. Duhan smiled. This wasn't an ending. It was just the start of humanity's next great adventure.